The house stood at the end of a street where there were no streetlights, no signs, not even normal traffic. It appeared suddenly. It was not built, not renovated. It was just there. People who had lived in the city since birth could not remember when exactly it appeared. But no one dared to come closer. The house was wrong. Its walls seemed too smooth, as if they were covered with dark skin. It had no windows, no hint of glass, no reflections, not even cracks, only a door. Heavy, massive, the color of burnt wood, and the worst thing was that it was slightly open. Not so much that you could look inside, but enough to create the feeling that someone was looking out. People avoided this house. They walked on the other side of the street. They looked away if they suddenly noticed it out of the corner of their eye. But everyone felt the same thing. This house is waiting. It is calling, and sooner or later someone will answer this call. The house was silent during the day, but at night it came to life. At first it was just a whisper, dull, muffled, as if from deep within. Then a creaking of floorboards, too clear, too real to be a figment of the imagination, and then screams, long, drawn out, filled with a terror that could not be faked. They came from behind the door, from behind a dark crack that never closed completely. But when someone plucked up courage and came closer, there was silence. People went inside. They did it in different ways, some out of curiosity, some because of an argument. Some simply thought it was a silly horror story, but no one came back. The first disappearances were written off as coincidences. But then people noticed something strange. Those who entered the house did not just disappear physically. They were forgotten. Photos with their faces disappeared. Names in documents were erased. Friends and relatives could not remember who they were, as if they had never existed, as if they had been replaced by something else. But the house was still waiting, and the door was still ajar. A dark, narrow passage that someone would definitely enter again. The house called, and one day it called him. Leo knew he shouldn't come closer. He'd heard the stories, heard the people disappear, watched the city slowly forget them. But something about this house wouldn't let go. Every night he'd wake up to voices, to whispers behind the door, to the feeling that someone was standing at his window, even if he lived on the 5th floor. And that night he couldn't take it anymore. The street was empty, the sky was covered with black clouds, the air was oppressive, still. Leo approached the house. The door was still ajar. The darkness behind it was too thick, as if there was no space there, only emptiness. He took a step forward, and then another. He doesn't remember how the passage closed. He doesn't remember what happened next. There was only the darkness that embraced him, cold, endless. The next morning, the house was gone. Not just the door, not just the people who had once disappeared, but the entire building. In its place was an empty lot overgrown with grass, as if nothing had ever been built there. The city didn't notice the disappearance. People passed by, not remembering that a black house had once stood here. Leo no longer existed, but if you stare long enough into the dark alleys at night, you can hear muffled whispers, and one day a new door will appear, left slightly ajar, waiting for the next